Welcome to our Avia live chat. If you don't know me yet, lucky you. Unfortunately, for those that do know me, my name is Johnny. I work for a company called Happy Snappy, and also part of the board here at Avia. And today we wanted to have a quick chat, get together for another live chat, the first of the year, which is exciting. Can't believe it's taken us this long. And almost, I think within 3 days, we'll be at a year of COVID in South Africa, a year since lockdown. I can't believe it. But yeah, we're back with another live chat, a chance to share a bit of information. I'm joined by some really great people. Hopefully you will get lots out of today's live chat. Please feel free to participate. There's a chat bar on the side there where you can go and ask us questions. You can put your hand up, you can turn your mic off and just shout at us if you want to interject or ask a question. But please, feel free. We want to open discussion and have a nice dialogue if we can. So yeah, happy Wednesday to everyone. Happy long weekend that's just passed. Let's get going. Okay, so today we wanted to chat a little bit about staff resilience and keeping your team and your staff smiling during a pretty tough pandemic. And for me, this topic was really born out of having the opportunity to visit the Two Oceans Aquarium a couple of weeks back, in fact, in January. And I know, we sit in the trenches trying to keep everybody smiling in our companies all day long. And it was nice to go across to the aquarium, and it hit me like a sort of a wall of water that everybody at the aquarium was just really happy and smiling. So either they'd all had some sort of shot of happy juice or they were genuinely happy to be there. So I thought it'd be a really cool topic to find out how to keep people smiling. But before we dive into it, I thought we'd have a quick poll to get your ideas on some of the things we want to know. I'm going to pop something on the screen, your level of trade currently. So please just give it a quick vote. Hit what your current level of trade is. What trade? We are open but slow. It has picked up nicely, or Easter is going to be a blast. So tick that for us. Geez, that's pretty cool. Got a couple of votes.
Johnny, it was
Yes,
it was a pity we could only answer one of those. I mean, Easter is going to be a blast.
I should have opened up for all three. Sort of each
I tried.
Okay, cool. So quite interesting. I don't know if you guys can share the results. What trade? It seems like everybody's open. Certainly everybody that's here, which is good news. Open but slow. It has picked up nicely, and Easter is going to be a blast. Michael, I think I'm the same as you. I sit between it has picked up nicely and maybe Easter is going to be a blast. So interesting to see that the sentiment has certainly improved since late last year. Hopefully it continues. Great. Thank you for that, everyone. Then just very briefly, I thought Sabine could give us a quick update on the state of Avia and our industry. Sabine is, I'm sure you all know, heads up Avia and heads up a lot of different things in the Western Cape and in the country. So Sabine, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you all, and particularly good to see some new faces. Marissa, Judy, Pippa, I haven't normally seen Zilla, and a special hello to Tom. Tom, are you in Belgium or in Finland?
I'm in Belgium at the moment.
So Tom,
hello everybody.
Nice, really nice to see your face. Tom's probably jealous because I think Europe is going into a hard lockdown soonish. And we've all spent the weekend, I have to say, hi Fatima, I actually was at your site at Cape Point on the weekend. So certainly, I mean, it's really hard to give across the board pronouncements, but anecdotal evidence speaking, hi Fazila, speaking to operators is that those who've got a strong and had a good domestic base are starting to see a nice, clearly a slow but nice pickup. I mean, everything from Kalahari, the Kalahari National Park, I've heard is fully booked, regardless of weekends, weekdays, school holidays or not, for the next year. The whale trail that I've just done, you can't get a booking for an entire year. We've heard the Pretoria Zoo had some nice business. So, you know, and again, of course, the problems with domestic market is that it's about discretionary spend. but I'm sure there's pent-up demand for things that you've always wanted to do and never had the chance to, and the Whale Trail is a good example in my case. I was down at Cape Point, and it was a nicely ticking over. It was amazing to get not have to queue for parking. Got on the cabin, which was a lovely experience. The funicular, just 16 of us. Maybe Tom, while you're here, I'm going to give you 2 minutes just to tell us what Europe is feeling like. I hear you're all going into major lockdown, but one thing I quickly wanted to add for this group is that I'm delighted to announce that we are now able to move forward on the very first attractions benchmarking study ever in Africa in the history of visitor attractions. And bear in mind, the Egyptian pyramids were built, what, 3,000 years ago. So I'm saying in Africa, it's only going to be South Africa because we don't have the budget to do Africa, but it will still be the first one. And it's really dependent on you guys participating and you guys encouraging your fellow colleagues at other attractions. We're really hoping for 70, 80 attractions to participate. It'll be anonymous, but I believe that it's really time that we share our data. And I'm going to share a case study that really made me decide we have to do this thing now. And that was that the Themed Entertainment Association does an international global visitor attractions report every year. They never include anything from Africa, which I called them on, and they then very nicely updated their most recent report and said there's no data available from Africa, which is fair enough. However, in their top 20 water parks in Europe, in EMEA, Ushaka Marine World, in their audited report, would come in at number 10 out of 20, and it's not included in the report. And the reason is that we have nothing of gravitas and benchmarking that sells us as the things that we do. And equally, I see Blue Loop, or one of them, is doing a sustainability conference at attractions. And I honestly believe we in South Africa are on par, if not ahead of the game on many of those things. I see none of our speakers there. So, you know, it's a case of us having to make ourselves known amongst ourselves as well as the global community. So I don't want to go on too long about that, but that's going to be a 3 to 4 month piece of work. We hope to launch it at the Avia conference. I will need all of your support because it's not something we can do without data. But I'm very excited about the fact that, well, what have we done? All we've done is we said we're going to do it. Boom, we put the stake in the ground. We've done nothing else yet, but you know, that's the most important bit. Tom, just 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm actually more interested in what's happening in South Africa at the moment, but I understand you might be curious at what's happening in Europe as well. I'm Tom, I'm education manager for IAPA, the global attractions industry. I actually had the chance to visit the Avea conference a few years ago and speak there, which was a great opportunity. And Sabine is right when she says that we try to learn more about Africa and South Africa, and that's the reason why I'm here. I'm really curious what's going on with you guys. But here in Europe, the situation is very uncertain at the moment. Indeed, certain countries are already in a third wave. Other countries are at the beginning of a third wave. And yeah, new lockdowns are being announced all the time. So every country is extending lockdowns that existed. Belgium actually 30 minutes ago had a press conference saying that we're also going in lockdown again. So yeah, the situation is very uncertain, and that also means most of our facilities are closed at the moment and don't even have a perspective on when they can reopen. Certain countries have announced dates on when facilities would be able to reopen, but also those dates are getting uncertain now that this third wave is coming so intense. It's not that dramatic. It's dramatic facilities, of course, but we live our lives. We can live our lives comfortable, but without too many social interaction. Okay, was that 2 minutes? Sorry if it was more.
That's perfect, Tom. Thank you. I think we caught you at 1 minute 45. Interesting about the UK, actually. A friend of mine also living in France said that 2 days ago they went into their hard lockdown. So I think as South Africans, we sort of sit on tenterhooks waiting for our government to do the same. Hopefully we don't get there. But I don't want to speculate too much on that. I think just to go back, the reason we're here is to talk a little bit more about staff resilience, which is something that's quite close to my heart. I enjoy working with teams and ensuring their top performance. So It's something that I found quite tricky, and I'll go back to the aquarium shortly. But at Happy Snappy, we had hundreds of employees across the country who we very quickly had to shrink the staff base, and we realized, losing jobs or losing employment just wasn't an option in this, for our team. And we thought we were doing them all a huge favor, but giving them 1 or 2 days to work or short time or layoff, it really, we thought we were going to boost everybody's morale and they'd still have a job and they'd still be making money. But, working once a week actually got them all very down in the dumps, even though we thought it was better than nothing. So that's been on my mind a lot. How do we keep people motivated? How we keep them smiling in a space that is all about smiles and fun? And really, I was soul searching a lot. And then I went over to the aquarium and I was with my family, and I actually joined my wife and 2 kids once that had already been in the aquarium. And my wife had said she stood in the queue for 2 minutes and very quickly realized that if she bought a membership, she could not only skip the queue, but she would have a membership for very little more money. So that was a cool start. And then after we went through, I just sat down and I thought, wow, that was really good. And I couldn't really initially pinpoint it, but luckily I get to sneak behind the scenes quite often and take a few crib notes. But it really was an awesome experience. And everybody from the poor guy who has to hold a temperature gun at your face to the guys doing the shark feeds and doing the announcing, they were incredible. And I just felt there was a certain energy about them that I'd love to bottle and recreate. So hence I've asked Helen Lockhart from the aquarium to give us some of her secrets. Helen, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're the communications and sustainability manager over at the aquarium. And,
yes,
and much like your colleagues, you do pretty much everything as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Please give me the cheat sheet. Give me something that I could copy. How do I make people smile?
Yeah, Johnny, firstly, thanks very much for your very kind comments. And it's comments like yours, whether it's verbal, on email or on social media, that we feed off and that keep us going. I mean, that positive feedback is absolutely critical. So thank you very, very much. And thank you everybody for being here this afternoon. And hopefully, hopefully we can share some of our lessons. I'm very honored to have my colleagues with me. So I'm going to ask them to chip in at any point if they feel I'm missing the mark or I've left something off. So yeah. So Johnny, he sent me a bunch of questions. So I'll kind of run through those, and then I think then we can have a bit of a discussion afterwards, if that's okay. So basically, just asked, how we've managed our team during the pandemic. And we actually closed the aquarium about 10 days before the national lockdown came into place. We took the decision to do that. We thought we're going to close for 3 weeks for the school holidays, and then we'll be reopening after that. Of course, little did we know we'd be closed for 5.5 months, like so many of you as well. But I think the first thing to point out was the fact that was seen as a very proactive move by our staff and our visitors, and was appreciated that we, sort of thought ahead and kind of did what we had to do. I think we are incredibly lucky and incredibly fortunate, and I speak not only as, sort of a representative of the organization here, but as an employee, is that we were able to pay our staff right the way through. And that's largely because we had some money in the bank. Fortunately, we were saving for a development that we were going to be initiating fairly soon. But we also have very generous owners, the V&A Waterfront, and without their assistance and their backup, we certainly wouldn't be where we are today. So that is obviously a huge, huge thing. Obviously staff were at home for the most part. Our curatorial staff immediately split into 2 teams. They're the people that look after the animals, and they continue to care for the animals throughout. Michael, who's here, our CEO, jumped in and he assisted with diving and dive supervision. And I think that really, really meant a lot to the curatorial staff to see that, management was kind of interested to see what was happening on a day-to-day basis and willing to step in and assist. So that was huge. And then comms and marketing carried on working, finance carried on working. But of course, our guest experience team and our functions team literally had to sit at home and wait. And I think that was really hard for them. They were jumping at the bit to come back. They wanted to help, we'll come back, we'll do anything. I mean, that was the feedback that we were getting from them. They were really keen to be back. But we stayed in touch with our teams, obviously, you know, like everyone else, through Zoom, Teams, WhatsApp. We've also been working with a consultant, a staff engagement consultant, for the last 2 years. And she did check-ins with the management team just to see how we were all coping, and then also with the individual teams. So we did a Zoom session with her, and people could just sort of say where they were at, what they were feeling and experiencing, which I think that also really, really helped. And then again, Michael regularly kept in touch with the staff, sending them updates, you know, saying to them, look, we don't know what's happening. We've got to wait for government. You've got to keep patient. You know, sharing information, obviously, around, you know, what was happening with salaries. We did take salary cuts. So just sharing, you know, information and keeping the contact with the rest of the team. And as I say, I mean, so many of our staff are just super grateful that they've been able to, you know, receive an income. And in fact, some of them have come back and are working the time back. So they're working 5.5 months back because they took that, you know, they sat at home and they couldn't work. It's one particular colleague, but he is just incredible and he wants to do that. So, I mean, that speaks to the caliber of that particular individual, which is just an amazing thing. So that was really just sort of during the pandemic itself. But then in terms of reopening, we started preparing our reopening whenever that was going to be. We obviously had no clue. I mean, at one point, I think we were only going to be opening on level 1. So we just had to, you know, we decided to start planning well in advance because Michael said, you know, the minute we get the go ahead that we can open, we must be ready. There cannot be dilly-dally. So we got, you know, everything on board, risk assessment by independent people. We appointed Alicia as our COVID officer. We got all our signage and protocols and documentation and all of that. And that was largely helped or hugely helped through the IAPA experience and the IAPA documentation, the Tourism Business Council as well, and the work that Sabine was doing. So all of that informed, you know, what we were trying to do with our policies and procedures. And I think giving our staff very clear protocols, very clear guidance, very clear policies, I think that also gave them the reassurance that we were taking this seriously and we had their interests at heart. We weren't just doing this for our visitors, but it was really important for our staff as well. So we had some training for them before they all came back. They got masks and, you know, sanitizer, which was, you know, on behalf, given to them by the company. And then you finally got the reopening. Of course, that was, you know, just like magical words to hear. Yeehaw, we can reopen. I think we all celebrated. And I think the great thing for us was that we opened in September with what was like a mini season for us, because we had agreed that we would honor all the birthdays that had been celebrated between March and September. So everybody in the country or in Cape Town that had had a birthday could come and visit us on, you know, and get that. So our staff thrive on obviously the busy visitors and this vibe and this fun. And, you know, so opening with that experience really set the trajectory of just, we're back and, you know, we're thrilled. And, you know, people also being obviously to see their colleagues again, see the animals again. That also really, really worked. And then, so this busy vibe. And then also because it was so busy and we couldn't get all our volunteers back, we all jumped in. So Ingrid was dancing the queue and, you know, sort of counting people in and out of turnstiles. Alicia was there doing sanitizer checks and temperature checks. Michael was, you know, also there talking to visitors during, you know, when there was feeds happening. So we all just jumped in and we were all like with the team and I think that was also just incredible to see how they operate. Actually, as I say, they thrive on the busyness and they just pull together and go full steam ahead. So it was really an emotional day just to be reopened and to, you know, see the first visitors and the first members with their kids coming back into the building. Hugely, again, rewarding and morale boosting for the team. And then we've, you know, kept our staff, those staff that can work at home have been able to work at home. We've kept it very flexible. Finance team are slowly only coming back. comms and marketing are, in for the most part, but slowly coming back. And then I think also just one of the things that I did after December was, everyone was again anticipating this fantastic season, and when it didn't materialize, there was I think they were quite not depressed, but quite low on energy and vibe and things like that. So I checked in with them. Also, again, the concerns they were working throughout that second wave, obviously at the front, this is the guest experience team, but at the front line, being exposed. So I did a session with them where we just, we sat and we chatted together, acknowledged, where they're at, what they're experiencing. Some of them have, lost family members. Others have, lost partners, have lost jobs and things like that. So it was really just a chance to sit down and actually breathe together and acknowledge, where everybody was at. And for them also to hear what each one of them have been struggling with. I think that's also important because, we sort of tend to, come to work and, we've got a rah, but at the same time, we've got to actually see each other and realize, okay, what I'm feeling is not, I'm not alone in this. And I think that really worked for them. And again, I just have to acknowledge the work that Alicia's done with this guest experience team, the front of house team, because they are a phenomenal team. Positive, vibey, full of energy. Sure, there's stuff. There's interpersonal stuff that isn't great. But on the whole, they are just the most amazing team. And when I work with them on duty weekends, I love it. I feel energized and enjoy. At the daily briefing sessions, there's often, song and, they really just are an amazing team. So really hats off to Alicia for building that team. So, some of the stuff that has worked and hasn't worked, again, an amazing place to work. We've got all these incredible animals around us, beautiful exhibits. For a lot of our people, it's a second home, and our colleagues are, our second family. We've just had our long service awards, and 25 people of our, 25 staff and volunteers celebrated 5 years and more. So they, long-standing relationships and this 25-year-old culture that we can really, draw on to carry us through this. A really important lesson that we also learned at some point was, and I think this came from Sabine, was holding your plan lightly, being flexible, being proactive, staying very light on your toes so that if we could move with whatever was happening, we could be proactive and responsive, and also just over deliver rather than under deliver. Always just, making sure that whatever we were doing, our visitors were getting more than what they expected in terms of signage and, information sharing and things like that. And then I mentioned obviously the visitor feedback, which how important, and, that really boosts morale again and, keeps everybody smiling and positive. And I think we've been really lucky in that lockdown has resulted in people being much more appreciative of nature and wanting to reconnect with nature. And obviously that's what we offer. We offer an experience with a world that most people can't access, but they want to, get and have this. And we've also found that, a lot of people have actually slowed down as a result of lockdown. They've, have a deeper appreciation, not just of nature, but of relationships and of, service providers. And so I think we've also benefited from that. We've seen how, people are more patient and more considerate. And of course, our members are just thrilled to be back, just absolutely thrilled to be back. And thank you, Johnny, for signing up as a member. That was fantastic to hear, really lovely. But of course, it hasn't been a bed of roses. There are issues like any organization. I think some of the big things that we've worked with and had to work with our staff is that there were a lot of them that were fearful coming back to work, especially being on the front line, being exposed to our visitors, having to engage with our visitors, in close proximity. So a lot of them were quite fearful. And then some of our staff who are guides, who are sort of floor guides and are used to entertaining our visitors and interacting with them, doing feed talks and, sharing information about the oceans, etc. they've now had to become more sort of COVID protocol enforcers. They've had to go around and check that people are, social distancing and wearing their masks and, asking for announcements to be made just to remind people of all the COVID protocols. And that can be very frustrating for them. So we, obviously have to, keep working with the staff and keep reminding them of, sort of why we're here and thanking them and acknowledging their role in terms of what they're doing. And also not, I think, very importantly, not to sort of, brush off those feelings and not to, brush them away and just say, it's your job, get on with it kind of stuff, but actually to listen to them, to spend the time hearing them out. They might not be right, but yeah, hear them out and just see them and acknowledge the struggles that they might have while they're on the floor with our visitors. And then, I think some of our staff have also struggled at coming back into the office full time. They've gotten used to working from home and having that flexibility, not being kind of checked up on and not having, having to be in sort of fixed, be on your computer or at fixed times. So we at one point with our team, we actually sort of said to them, okay, after the second wave, it's time to come back, at least 3 days a week. Let's all get together and have a meeting, and but still give them the freedom and the flexibility to, be able to work at home some of the days. And even during lockdown, I mean, some of them definitely struggled with feeling isolated from their colleagues and just, struggled with the being on their own and working from home. So we did a lot more kind of touch-ins. I mean, normally we meet with our team once a week, face to face, but we were doing just chat-ins, how's everyone doing? What you've been, how are your animals? How you, really just touching base with them and doing that. And then, I mean, we've obviously come back and had the usual HR performances. Every company has them. We do too, sort of underperformance and misconduct and gossip in the passages and people feeling that they've been treated unfairly. But again, just, making sure that we hear them out and we, do the processes. And then I think something that it seems strange to us, is that some people don't understand the financial ramifications. So they see we've got visitors back. Yeah, it's excellent. And we see, they see we're putting up our ticket prices. So when am I getting my increase? And, when am I going on training? And Michael actually had to, we did a bit of a pep talk this morning with the staff just to say, this is what it costs the aquarium to run on a daily basis. This is what we are, getting through our door in terms of visitation. This is what it translates into income. And this is what the budget looks like for this coming year. And there were some oohs and ahs in the audience. So I think that the penny is sort of dropped there, that actually, we're not going to be rushing to give dramatic increases and things like that. So really just trying to get people to understand. And then staff meetings. I mean, we haven't had a full staff meeting for a whole year. And I think that's also, it's been difficult because people feel disconnected from each other, that, everyone's kind of working in their departments. So they're not seeing each other regularly, especially those that don't walk around on a regular basis. So, that kind of disconnect, not seeing, Michael face to face, not seeing, all the managers. So it was really a good session this morning. We're lucky we have less than 100 permanent staff. So we were able to, and we've got big spaces, obviously. We've got, big exhibit spaces where we can meet. So that was really important. And certainly, if lockdown allows, that's something that we need to reinstitute. And then Johnny was just, what is the secret? I think there's no
writing them all down. I've got your secrets.
Yeah, there's no kind of magic recipe. I think, working with people, there's always trials and errors, but I think, keeping things flexible, especially at this time when things are changing all the time, you don't know what you're going to wake up to the next day. So, keeping your communication with your staff as regular and probably more so. So, again, over communicating rather than under communicating with people and being honest. I think, also acknowledging, certainly us as managers, acknowledging that we don't know the answers. We didn't know when we were going to open. We don't know what, visitation is going to do, if it's going to increase or, So just being really honest with the teams and kind of showing a little bit of vulnerability, I think that goes a long way. And then trust. I think, trusting also, especially those that, are still needing to work from home, maybe they've got comorbidities. But I think one of the sentences or lessons that I learned, and I actually think I picked this up something from Judy Mann, and it was around output being more important than input. So definitely, sitting 8 hours in front of your computer does not mean you've been productive for the day. And so, measuring staff not by the time that they spend in the office, but rather at the time, the productivity that they have is really, really important. And then it goes back to, good hiring programs and training programs. I think really investing in the staff that we have. And we've been doing that over a number of years, really kind of building. That's, what I said earlier about Alicia and the guest experience team. It's really working with that team, molding them. It took hard work in the beginning, but certainly reaping the benefits, absolutely. And I love this. Ingrid actually gave me this input, and I think it's so valid, is that, recruiting people that have great chemistry with one another. And I think that certainly, works in our favor time and time again, because you get these people in and they just gel. They just gel with the organization. They fit in. And those that don't leave very quickly. We had somebody that we appointed recently. I think she was there for less than a week. And she so really, making sure that, the people get your culture and get the chemistry. That really is, a secret one, a secret ingredient. And then finally, our staff are just so proud of where they work. And that also goes a long way to, keeping people, productive, keeping people super happy, keeping them smiling on, at the front line. They want to talk about this beautiful, the beautiful exhibits that we have. Working for a purpose-driven organization, our mission and our ultimate purpose is to save the oceans. So, that's one hell of a purpose to work for. And when you've got the buy-in of your staff, and they know that every single thing that they do is about achieving that purpose and that vision, I don't think you can go wrong. So then I think just, looking forward in terms of what's coming up next, we don't know. I think some of the things that we've been talking about quite a lot in recent months is obviously COVID fatigue. And that's not only just with the public and visitors, but obviously also with our staff, that this new normal is now so normal, but it is exhausting. We're all sick and tired of wearing masks. And so I think this is where, how do we gauge, how do we look at the impact that might be having on our staff? And I think this is where the staff work that we have been doing, and the staff engagement work that we've been doing really comes into play. We've got to continuously raise the levels of emotional intelligence amongst our team, really give them the tools and the kind of courage and bravery to have that and resilience. And then really make sure that we are taking staff well-being into account. It's become, in the last probably 3 or 4 years, it's become increasingly my passion, and to really make sure that staff well-being sits at almost the core of everything that we do, because without great staff, we're going nowhere. We will not have visitors. So really, really investing in our staff, from not just a financial point of view, but obviously the emotional point of view. And then practicing our humanity as leaders. I think we as the leading team of the aquarium and the management team, we have to really, really, step up and show up and, be there for our staff as much as we can. So that's kind of what I have to share. And as I said, if the others can chip in.
Helen, thanks so much, man. I had a whole host of questions, but you've nailed them as I've thought of them. So I'm struggling. But I do have a comment, and I think it's more in lines of what we've learned as a business, is you said something early on about closing the aquarium early. You know, we assumed that if we stayed open as long as possible and as late as possible, we're going to do it at the staff's benefit. They all get paid and we can keep running. And in actual fact, you know, reflecting on it is probably the worst thing to do, because they're sitting there going, wow, you know, we're not safe. What are we doing at work? And that's one thing I think we could have done differently based on your comments. And I think secondly, we prepared for opening. I'm talking about as a company now, I'm giving away all our secrets. We prepared for opening in what the guests needed, rather than what our staff needed. So I think that's one thing, you know, I can turn around quite quickly. I haven't sort of missed the boat, but we could turn that around quickly and say, wow, let's actually look at what they need, and that will spill into the guests, you know, make sure that they're happy and comfortable being at work in a pandemic. So those are two things I thought were quite powerful that I could use. Did anybody else pick up something that they could steal from the aquarium? Anybody else on stage? No?
Helen, I'm interested because what I'm finding right around the country is the people that are weathering the storm and staying in their boat are people who've invested in the right things, the long-term strategies in terms of purpose, focusing on domestic visitors, focusing on your own staff. So it's not something you can turn around in a crisis. The building blocks that you've built prior to the crisis is what's really getting yourself through. So I'm quite interested in your staff engagement process that you had prior to the pandemic, because it's something that I think a lot of companies talk about and not many actually do. So kind of what prompted you to do that, what do we call it, program? How did it benefit you through the pandemic? What advice can you give us around staff engagement because it was such a trending topic so many years ago. And like I say, I think people who've done the right sorts of investments in the last 3 years prior to the pandemic, they're the ones that are really weathering the storm well now.
Yeah, thanks, Sabine. Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, you know, the staff engagement process, so we initiated the process that we are doing now coming up 3 years, actually, 3 years ago. But prior to that, we sort of started dabbling a little bit in it. And I think that's where my interest kind of, you know, really took off. And I think we discussed it and we kind of went round in circles and we kept coming back to it. And then in 2018, we actually signed up a business consultant, organizational development consultant to assist us with this journey. And it started off with a survey of the staff, you know, doing a survey to assess their sort of perceptions of culture, management, the overall business, HR, you know. So we got a snapshot in 2018 of what our staff thought about the business and the management and the leadership and all of that. And then we slipped up there because we dropped the ball. We didn't really focus on it much between certainly with the staff between 2018 and sort of now. Really, we picked up on it again. But in that time frame, we also did leadership workshops with our management team. So, you know, talking about emotional intelligence, talking about leadership, and giving our senior managers some tools to work around. And then, as I say, we've now picked up again the survey. We've just done the survey again and matched the results between 2018 and 2020. And yeah, some interesting changes, some not. I mean, some of the things were pretty much the way they were in 2018. Some of the things we could see were really COVID related. So for instance, around training, you know, have you had training in the last year? Well, no, because, you know, we were all at home kind of thing. So that hadn't happened. But also now looking at, now we've realized that where the biggest focus that we need to work on right now is our middle management. So the team just below, well, I hate using that and kind of that language, but yeah, the middle management team, working with them so that they also are aligning with the leadership strategy, the leadership culture that we have, and kind of really working with that team as well. So yeah, I think it's a process that we'll be involved with for quite some time. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. It's an ongoing process. So, yeah. And I think the emotional intelligence question is an interesting one, because a lot of our staff come from backgrounds where the education offered in their school systems aren't necessarily as rounded or culturally broad as what other people have gone through. And so employers have a lot more work to do perhaps than some other countries, you know.
Yeah. What I was pleasantly surprised, we had a session actually just this morning with the middle managers. And I mean, I was blown away, because you sort of think we've got to work really hard with this team. They've got the wisdom. They've just got to learn how to put it. So, I mean, they've just got to, learn how to put it into practice.
No, that's interesting. Helen, I think it's those sort of long-term investments is what gets you through, as Sabine says, gets you through the tougher times. It's just, you know, the more and more I try and find that silver bullet that kind of just gets everybody happy and they come to work, and it doesn't really exist. But I guess for me, the message is, you know, it does take a long time to build up that resilience. But it also, I think you nailed it as well earlier, saying trust, honesty. If you can be very much honest at the forefront of these sort of scenarios, I think your staff will start to trust you and show that resilience early on. You know, another point, another thing we started doing, whether it's right or wrong, is I just gave more visibility to that sort of middle management team, showing them, you know, a portion of the books to kind of say, have a look. It's not all roses and sunshine. You know, just because we're selling a couple of things doesn't mean we're all, you know, retiring in the Bahamas. It's quite a challenge, you know. So I think that clarity really got a lot of them on board to say, okay, cool. Well, we can see the roadmap now. We understand where we are. So that's one of the takeaways for me. Does anybody else have any other questions? We're going to wrap up in a minute or two. Or any other comments? Nothing. I know, Judy, you were mentioned earlier. I'm sure you could add some wisdom for us. I'm not putting you on the spot. Just checking.
I think just to really reiterate what Helen said, we're very lucky that we start off with staff that are really passionate, a lot of them, about what we do and what we share, and they believe in what we're doing. And I think that that's a great starting point. But then a really honest communication, and I think that is important. And sometimes honest communication is tricky when you actually don't have the answers. So you're being as honest as you can, but you actually don't have all the answers, and staff wanted real answers during those early days. So to me, the first 2 weeks before lockdown happened were the worst ever, because there was so much insecurity. Nobody knew what was happening. Half the people said close now, half the people said stay open. Yeah, it was really, really difficult. But once lockdown happened, it became actually quite a bit easier. We have a lot of staff still working from home, and I'm starting to see the cracks showing. So I would really like to start getting staff back on site, which we're not going to be doing in the immediate sort of short term. But we do need to start getting that communication happening on a personal basis. There's only so much that you can do virtually. So I think that will be one of our priorities as soon as we can start really putting more staff in a structured basis. We can do it the same way as a school. Some staff are in on certain days, other days. So I think that's what we'll be looking at. But I think just to reiterate what Helen said, it's honest communication with your team, continual communication, and when it's not happening, people notice it. And and then investing for the long term. It's not a short term. This is a long term thing with staff. So I think that those are key points that I would go with as well. Okay. But thank you very much. It's been really interesting.
No,
thank you.
Sorry to put you on the spot there. like we didn't catch you in your PJs there. Just a quick poll, guys. Or Michael, sorry, you want to ask something?
Johnny, if I could just add, there were two things. The one was, I would agree with Judy, honest communication, but honest communication, saying that you don't know is honest communication. so I have no qualms of saying that. I mean, especially that initial lockdown, we just didn't know when we were going to. I mean, we all thought it was 3 weeks, and then it just went on and on and on. I mean, we didn't have a clue. And actually, one of the comments that I think came out of Europe was that you get shutting down was easy because there was clarity in that actually, but reopening. Well, I mean, the government didn't know where to put zoos and aquariums. And I mean, the poor MOCA, I mean, the MOCA's got 6 floors. They're still only allowed 50 people. because it's a museum. So eventually they suddenly realized actually there are zoos and aquariums, and we made it onto some lists and then we're not on others. So we eventually decided we're the same as a casino and we're going to open. So that was the one thing. The other was that you know, in terms of a good staff team, I'm not kidding when I've been at the aquarium 20 odd years now. And at one stage, we were laughing about it the other day. At one stage, I remember the curatorial staff and the behind the scenes staff, the front of house team were not what they are today. And actually the manner in which they dealt with visitors was quite often embarrassing. The ticket office staff were chosen by the finance department. So a lot of them had no interpersonal skills whatsoever. They were embarrassing. They'd hide in the ticket office, you know. So it took that kind of realization that from the moment you walk up towards the aquarium, you're already a visitor, and that it's about a guest experience from then until you leave the premises, and to actively make a plan to change that. And it took, I don't know, Helen, 5-10 years. And I would say now we really have a team that we're proud of, and that's do us proud.
Thanks, Michael. Tricky,
I want to add.
Yes.
I want to add to that. I'll never forget at our very first Attractions Africa, before we got our fancy name, conference at Kirstenbosch. The very wise Tony Rubin, in his presentation, said, "You don't interview in this industry. You audition." And I think that conference was what, 6 years ago, and it really it stayed with me, and it has definitely served us now and will into the future, because attitude is everything. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. I think, did Marissa have something, or Judy, you had your question?
Marissa, do you want to go first?
Yes, sorry, I had my hand up. Hello, everyone. I'm a new member. I'm from Vinpro, so I look after wine tourism for them. And we've really, from the outset of this pandemic, looked at how we can help our wineries, because we don't have direct contact with the staff necessarily like a business owner does. How we can help them with their staffing. And something that we are now focusing on is we've definitely seen a reduction in staff. We've seen some shifts in staff. We see our tasting room staff taking on more roles than they used to in the past. So for us in the next 6 months, we're trying to get a handle on what are those new roles, what skills do they need to do them well, and then we're going to roll that priority training out by September. And that for us is a dual purpose. You know, it is about the quality of the visitor experience, but it's also about how happy that staff member is and how confident they feel doing their job, because really nobody feels good doing a job and they know they don't really know what they're doing. And they're already under quite a lot of pressure, and they're filling a gap for a team member that used to be there. So that kind of cross-training, whether it's informal and on the job, or whether it is the formal courses that we're planning, is a big priority for us, so that everybody can just feel comfortable and confident again in what they're doing.
That's very cool, Marissa. I think that's nice. They get a broad set of skills at the same time. So
yeah,
sort of winning in both fields. Very cool, man. Thank you. Pippa, did you have your hand up? I think I saw a blue hand there. Or it's just me. Is Pippa gone? Come in, Pippa.
Judy had her hand up.
I'm like, who did, sorry?
Judy.
Judy, are you? Aha.
I was just going to add to what Michael said, and it comes from visitor research that's been done around the world. And the statement that stayed with me is that the magic of a $6 million investment in a new exhibit was destroyed by the lady behind the popcorn stand, because we didn't invest our training in the lady behind the popcorn stand, and the visitor had a bad experience there. Doesn't matter what you do with the other $6 million and your beautiful exhibit, they will remember the lady behind the popcorn stand. And that was, for me, something that's always stood out, is that you invest in your most junior employee, because that can make or break everything else that you do.
That's brilliant. I'm glad you didn't say the guys at the photo booth. Rather leave it to the popcorn guys. They're the troublemakers. So thanks so much, everyone. I think we were supposed to end at 2:45. I'm going to be in a little bit of trouble, but I really appreciated that feedback and just the open, honest sharing. I mean, I'm learning a lot. I've got a lot more to learn. So I'm just going to camp out of the aquarium for a couple of weeks and just sort of hide behind the doors and hear what they say. Maybe they can give me some secrets. But before you go, can I just ask you for one more poll, please? I thought this would be cool to see. I don't know if that's gone live. Is that live? How do you rate your team's current resilience? I think that's how you spell resilience, and mood. Go on, someone's got to vote. Is it live? There we go. Ooh, I wish I could see who said it.
In my case, the team is myself and my hound on the couch. So,
so you definitely own customer service, definitely.
Well, I don't know. More motivated than some more motivating days than others.
Okay, I think it's basically just me who hasn't voted. So pretty good. Let me see if I can share that. If I should be able to do that. So the winner is they are motivated and trying their best. That's pretty good. It's pretty optimistic. I think in general we're all doing a pretty good job. It's just trying to find that little bit extra to unlock the last 10%. But yeah, I think a really interesting topic, guys. I really appreciate your time, Helen, and to the whole team at the aquarium that kind of shared your insights there. I appreciate that. And I know we don't often want to share all our secrets, but now I think it helps us all so much in the industry at large. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Please do join our next live chat. I think it will be in the next couple of weeks or month or so. We'd love to see you back. So yeah, have an awesome Wednesday afternoon, and thank you so much.